Hi, and welcome back for another Star Wars book review. Do 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 do. So today I am here, very excited, for the conclusion of the Jedi Academy trilogy, which is Champions of the Force. This was a great read. I can't wait to share it with you. But before we get into it, I would like to say that these videos are intended for superfans who have already read the books and know what is going on here, and people who care about Star Wars but will never take the time to read all the books, as there are many. If you have not seen the previous two videos and don't know what the heck this girl is talking about, I will link below the previous two videos for the previous two books. Yes, on that note, let's begin. Also, check out my shirt. It's my favorite Star Wars shirt, even though it's red. And I hate red, but check it. Dun, 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 dun. Has a huge hole in the armpit, but I don't even care. It just shows that it's well loved. I also brought Wedge with me today, Wedge Antilles, to help me tell this story. Thanks for coming to help, Wedge. You're welcome, Ietta. Carida is where our story begins. We remember it is the location of the Imperial Military Academy. So Ambassador Fergan, the dimwit from the first book, has been plotting to steal baby Anakin. So he is gathering his forces to steal baby Anakin and figure out the location of baby Anakin. That's happening over here. Over here, Luke is still in a coma. Okay. Leia arrives with Jacen and Jaina, but there's really nothing anybody can do about that. So, Kyp Durron is on a warpath, right? He just struck a blow to Dalla's forces. Now he's on his way to the Carida system for two reasons. A, because he wants to destroy it, since it's the location of the Imperial Military Academy. And B, he wants to look for his brother Szeth. Now, in the last book, we discovered that Szeth was taken away to go become a stormtrooper, whereas Kyp was taken to the spice mines of Kessel. So now Kyp is going to look for Szeth and also destroy Carida. Upon his arrival, calls in, like, hey, I'm looking for my brother Szeth, and if you don't put him on, I'm going to destroy the planet. Kyp is informed that Szeth is dead. So what does he do? He takes the Sun Crusher and uses it for its intended purpose and shoots a beam right into the star. So Carida now has 5 minutes. 5 minutes to get its shit together, okay? So the operator gets back on the phone and is like, we lied to you. Szeth is alive. And Kyp's like, why did you lie? So Kyp rushes down to the planet to try to save his brother, but at the very last second, he sees Szeth. He reaches his hand down to pull Szeth aboard the ship. And right as Szeth grabs his hand, the sun explodes. And Szeth is vaporized before his very eyes. Traumatizing. We remember in A New Hope when Alderaan was destroyed, Obi-Wan gets a headache and it's like 1,000 voices screaming and then silenced. Well, back on Yavin 4, Leia and all of the students experience that same thing when Carida is destroyed. It just sends a shockwave through the Force and oh my god, makes them reel. It also wakes Luke up. In a way. Luke wakes up looking down upon his own body. So he is not in his body. He's like a Force ghost hanging out outside of his own body. Okay. But nobody can see or hear him except for Jacen and Jaina. And they make a few comments like, Uncle Luke says he misses us. And everyone's like, okay, good job, kids. They don't really believe the children, right? Shortly thereafter, Exar Kun, the Sith Lord, summons some predatory birds to come and peck Luke's body to death. And so Jacen and Jaina wake up screaming in the night like, oh my god, Luke's in trouble! So everybody rushes in, except for Leia, who's off to find a weapon or something. Everybody rushes in, and Jason rushes right up to the podium, and he's like, Uncle Luke, what do I do? And Luke's like, take my lightsaber, Jason. And Jason's like, I'm not supposed to. I don't know how to use a lightsaber. And Luke's like, I will show you. So this 2.5-year-old little boy picks up Luke's lightsaber and with surprising ease is slashing down all of these predatory birds. So that's crazy cool. Leia comes in at the last second, but at that point Jason had already destroyed all of them. So she scoops Jason up and he's like, Luke says that the only way that he can come back is to destroy Exar Kun. And so now everybody believes Jason because obviously, you know, I mean, look what the kid just did. Kind of proving his merit here, okay? Meanwhile, back on Coruscant, Turpin, who we remember was Admiral Ackbar's mechanic, has that huge scar on his head, which is from when he was enslaved by the Empire and tortured. But what we are now finding out is that scar on his head is from when they put a chip into his brain to, like, control his actions. Sort of like the chips that we see in the clones for Order 66. It's sort of like that. Okay, so we find out he is the one who hijacked Ackbar's ship to fly into the Cathedral of Winds in the last book. We find out that he put a tracker on Admiral Ackbar's ship when Ackbar had gone to visit Winter and Anakin at Anoth, and then relayed baby Anakin's coordinates to Ambassador Fergan. So Turpin's been up to some shenaniganry. But when Carida was destroyed, that hold on his brain was also destroyed because all of the machines and whatnots keeping him in check were destroyed. So he is free. Oh my god, so grateful to be free. So the first thing he does upon, you know, realizing his newfound freedom is like, oh my god, I have to go warn Leia that baby Anakin's in trouble. So hops on a ship, goes to Yavin 4, arrives, and is like, Leia, Anakin's in trouble. We have to go save him. And Leia says, I don't even know the location of the planet. Because remember, Admiral Ackbar and Luke were the only two people to know the location of the secret planet. And Luke is still sort of in a coma. So, Leia's like, okay, we're going to Mon Calamari. Off to Mon Calamari they go. When they arrive, Admiral Ackbar is very quickly debriefed on what Turpin has been up to, all of the deceits that he's been taking part of, but he takes them right off to Anoth anyways. Okay. Meanwhile, Han has been at Coruscant upon hearing about the destruction of Carida. He knows that Kip is the one at fault because he knows Kip has the Sun Crusher, so he's like, alright, come on, Lando, we're going to look for this kid. So they go to the Carida system, they follow a path of destruction, and they eventually find Kip, and Han's like, hey, kid, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're not really helping anybody. Why don't you just come on back with me and we'll get this whole situation sorted out. And Kip's like, but you don't understand. You don't understand me. The pain. The pain. And Han's like, you're right, kid. I don't understand anything that's going on right now. But what about when we went skiing, man? What about running around the spice mines of Kessel together? What about when I realized that you had the Force and introduced you to Luke? You know, what about all these things? I'm trying to pull on Kip's heartstrings. And it works, okay? Kip acquiesces and comes with him. And so Han takes him back to Coruscant, where he gives him to Mon Mothma, and Mon Mothma is like still dying, by the way. She's super, super weak. like super weak. It is very, very not cool. It's kind of a miracle that she's even still coming to council meetings. She's hooked up to machines, not putting on a brave face, just whatever. So Mon Mothma is tired as shit, and she is like, you know, you were Luke's student, so Han, just take Kip back to Luke, and Luke can decide what to do with him. Okay? Okay, so that's happening. Meanwhile, Akbar, Turpin, and Leia arrive to Anoth to find what is left of some of Fergan's spider walkers have gotten into the cave where Winter and baby Anakin are hiding. So they rush inside thinking that they may be too late, and they discover Fergan holding baby Anakin, trying to make his escape because he wants the baby to be the new emperor. But, you know, Akbar has brought some squads with him of Mon Calamarians, and they all are aimed their triggers at Fergan. Like, hand over the baby. Hand over the baby. Hand him over. And so Fergan, like, wheedles his way around. Like, so he's here. Or no, he's here. And they are all here. So he, like, worms his way around to be nearer to the exit. And then he drops the baby and runs. So Leia, of course, grabs Anakin up, and Turpin is going after Fergan because he is furious. Fergan has been pulling his strings and making him do terrible, awful things for the longest time, so he basically is getting some revenge. Fergan hops in a spider walker, running away. Turpin hops in a spider walker, chasing after him. Fergan falls down out of the cliff. Turpin wants to follow. Akbar shuts the door because he realizes that Turpin is trying to make this a suicide mission. So he goes to the cockpit, and Turpin is just in tears, like, I have to atone for what I've done. I have to be punished. I've done horrible things. I need to pay for my sins. And Akbar is like, your punishment is to live. Powerful stuff. Meanwhile, the students on Yavin 4 have been formulating a plan to save Master Skywalker. So they come up with this whole plan. They're in the Great Hall, which is the ceremony hall that we see at the end of A New Hope, where Luke's body is being kept. Okay, just side note. So they gather in the hall one night, and Streen, the balloon guy, is the first one to be contacted by Exar Kun. And Exar Kun is like, you will be mine. You will be mine. You will kill Master Skywalker. Tion, you know, the little ukulele player, steps out of the shadows, and she's like, I don't think so. Karanati, the Witch of Dathomir, is like, no you don't. Dorsk81 is like, we're not going to put up with this anymore. So all the students are gathering around, and they are putting up a united front, like, the only way to put out the darkness is to combine our light. So they use the Force and strike down Exar Kun, and Luke snaps back into his body and wakes up, and he's like, good job, you guys. You really did it. I'm so proud of you. Perhaps we need not fear the darkness after all. Awesome! So Han comes back. Leia comes back with baby Anakin. There's a whole reunion with all of them. And Kip is with Han, and Han and Luke set eyes on each other. Awkward. And Luke is like, so, what do you have to say for yourself? And Kip's like, I'm sorry. I want to be a Jedi. Please forgive me. I don't know why I do these things. Meanwhile, Chewbacca's been on a bit of a mission of his own. He and Wedge Antilles have gotten permission from the Council to go back to the Maw installation to free the Wookiee slaves that were there. So they fly back there, and shortly after their arrival, The scientists who are still loyal to the Empire there hop on board the Death Star prototype and they leave the mall. Okay, so there's this Death Star prototype now that's hanging out right near Kessel. Then, who returns to the maw? Admiral Daala. Let's not forget about her. She, upon her many failures, decides that it is time to just return to her original mission, which was to protect the Maw installation. So she takes her one Star Destroyer called the Gorgon back to the Maw installation, where she finds all these New Republic ships trying to free the slaves and gather what information that is left from the Maw installation. Now, Lando calls Han, like, yo, give me a ride to Kessel, because I'm meeting Mara Jade there. And Han's like, I just reunited with my family on Coruscant. I don't want to do that. And Lando's like, but I don't have a ship, buddy, so why don't you take me to Kessel? And Han's like, fine. So Han takes Lando to Kessel, where they meet up with Mara Jade and find the Death Star prototype. Han is like, oh my god, are we ever gonna get rid of these things? Like, Jesus Christ. The scientists inside the Death Star prototype don't really know what they're doing. They were not involved with the Death Star project, but they want to test out the ship, so they try to destroy Kessel, but miss and destroy Kessel's moon. So now it's going to be a few minutes before they can figure out some sort of defenses or a way to fire again, so they decide to go back into the Maw to join Daala. So we're back in the Maw now with the Death Star prototype, Daala's Star Destroyer, New Republic forces scrambling around to try to get a bunch of people to escape, and Han, Lando, and Mara are going in after them. Now, Leia, back on Coruscant, was summoned by Mon Mothma, and Mon Mothma is like, Leia, I am too weak to continue. You must be Chief of State now. And Leia's like, okay. Now, as part of Kip's punishment for, falling to the dark side or whatever, Luke decides that Kip needs to be the one to destroy the Sun Crusher once and for all. So he flies to Coruscant and petitions Leia, like, yo, Leia, you need to release the Sun Crusher back to me so that Kip can destroy it. And Leia's like, man, I just became Chief of State, and now you're asking me to do this? Like, come on. Luke is like, please. Leia is like, fine, brother. So Luke and Kip take the Sun Crusher. They're going to plunge it into the black hole inside of the Maw. But upon arriving, they find the chaos that I was just talking about. So they go down to the research facility, and Luke's like, Wedge, how can I help? So he starts trying to help people evacuate. Kip steals the Sun Crusher again and flies it up to the Death Star prototype, taking some pot shots and basically trying to bait it, which works. So the closer the Death Star prototype gets to the black hole, the more it is being pulled in by the gravitational pull. Which happens, by the way, Death Star prototype and the Sun Crusher get sucked in to the black hole. The Sun Crusher releases a message cylinder, though, which Han picks up in the Millennium Falcon. Like, Kip just sacrificed himself. I should at least know his last words. Right at that second, Admiral Daala's Gorgon fires on the Maw installation. So luckily everybody had gotten out and it was all fine, but she, in a blaze, destroys the research facility and then disappears, is gone. We assume she's dead. Fine. Han opens up this message cylinder to see what Kip's last words were, and inside this message cylinder, about like yay big, is Kip. Cool. Now Turpin, we remember the Mon Calamarian, had informed Leia upon returning to Coruscant that Mon Mothma is not dying of natural causes. She was in fact poisoned. In the first book, when Ambassador Fergan threw a drink in Mon Mothma's face, there were a bunch of nano destroyers inside of it. And they basically have been destroying her cells one by one by one by one. And there is no cure. But Leia remembers Silgal, the Mon Calamarian female, is a very adept healer. So she asks Luke to bring Silgal to Coruscant to try to heal Mon Mothma, which of course Silgal does. She actually enters a meditative state, holding Mon Mothma's hand, and goes into each blood cell, pulling out the nano destroyer. So you just see these like little black droplets coming out of the end of Mon Mothma's fingers. Billions of cells. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I have goosebumps just talking about it. It is so cool. Jedi healers are so cool. I love that. I love that. Now that Mon Mothma is healed, Leia asks, so, are you ready to resume your duties as Chief of State? And Mon Mothma's like, no. Leia's like, so now Leia's the Chief of State forever. So at the end of the book, Leia's Chief of State, Mon Mothma is healed, Akbar is, in the clear because he never did anything wrong. Chewbacca freed some Wookiee slaves, and Kip rejoins Luke at the Academy where they can continue their Jedi training. Dala, the last thing we saw of her was when she blew up the research facility, but she did not die. Nay. She is going deep into the core world's systems to try to unite all of the warlords and all of the imperial remnants to make a unified strike against the New Republic. So I'm sure we'll see more of her at a later date. Overall, I am super happy with this book. Actually, the whole trilogy, it was just so beautifully set up. All of the characters that were introduced were awesome. I highly, if you've watched these videos, now it's all spoiled for you, but you really should read them anyway because there's a lot that I left out. They're just beautiful, and I'm really very excited about it. Join me next time, though, for the next book in the timeline, which is Children of the Jedi, the first installation of the Callista trilogy. Thanks for watching!